Hello and welcome to the channel. If you haven't been here before, please do make sure to like, subscribe, do all of the fun stuff, get involved, comment and share. So today we're going to be speaking a little bit about what is the point of a record label in 2025? Do you actually need one? Should you be signing away rights, royalties and all of that stuff in a world that is so sort of digitally democratized? Proud of myself for that. Digitally democratized. That was smart. And means that a lot of the things that traditionally you weren't able to do unless you had a record label are now entirely accessible for you as an independent musician if it's just you, on your own, doing your own thing. So in a world where, as just a one-man show, just you as an artist, you can get your music on every store and streaming platform in the world through really simple distribution mechanisms that are easy. You know, I could have a song on Spotify and Apple Music tomorrow morning if I wanted to, right? You can also now promote that music via social media, which is by far the most effective way to promote your music. And all you need to do that is an iPhone. And in fact, the best content these days is just UGC, just iPhone shot, right? There's also platforms whereby you can reach playlist curators, things like Submit Hub and Groover and stuff like that. There's ways to get your music out there to press. Some of the more traditional methods, which had all the gatekeepers in it, i.e. radio, press, TV, big live shows, things like that, they're not quite as important as they once were. They don't have quite the same impact on people's discovery of music as, say, YouTube does, or TikTok, or Spotify, for example, or, Twitch streams, things like that. So if all the doors are open to you as an artist, you don't actually need necessarily a label to unlock those doors. What is the point of record labels then in 2025? What do they actually bring to the table? So obviously I can't speak for every record label that's out there, but what I can do is speak on our experience from our record label and tell you what it is that we do for our artists every day and what we kind of spend our day doing, right? Every label will be slightly different and they will all offer kind of different value. But these are the things that I believe in 2025 record labels could do that is actually valuable, right? So, step one is the delivery of music onto DSPs or distribution process, right? Now, understand, I know that you can do this yourself. You can easily do this yourself. It's not hard at all. However, there is a difference between being able to distribute your music and get it onto Spotify and Apple Music and all of that, and having a distribution mechanism that maximizes your chances of support from these platforms. So, does your record label have strong relationships with their distributor, i.e. AWOL or CD Baby or whoever? Do they have a track record of securing placements with DSPs? Can they provide some kind of evidence that they have ongoing relationships with these platforms? Do they pitch to editorial teams themselves? So, the first thing is that they have a more bespoke and more powerful distribution method whereby they actually have conversations with the streaming platforms in order to try and get you playlists, in order to try and get you features, in order to try and get you, storefront opportunities to promote your music as best as possible. So the second thing that we spend most of our day doing is content. Stuff like this. So we are pretty full on with the content that we provide our artists. So we actually go out of them, help them film content, sometimes make them film content. We provide them with a full social media schedule. We discuss ideas. We discuss creative direction with them. We find locations to film. And then we take all that raw footage and we edit it. Now that is time consuming, right? That is not done like that. And sure, artists can do this as well. But how much time is there in a day, really? Can you really be doing that all day, right? We obviously provide that and we do that with them, right? So content is the second main thing that we do. The next main thing that we kind of do with artists is we run advertising campaigns. So I think all record labels should be highly knowledgeable with advertising across, at the very least, across Meta and TikTok, but probably YouTube as well. Because anyone can run ads. Running ads isn't hard, but knowing how to run them effectively and over a long period of time, that is a bit more of a skill. So we run a lot of ads for all of our artists to make sure that they're, driving streams and driving a fan base. The next thing we do is obviously we provide access to our mailing list and our community that we're building on that. So we have a text group and a WhatsApp group, as well as a mailing list that we, use to drive pre-saves, use to drive activity on a song. So our mailing list is currently at about 1,500 people. And this is a good way to drive some direct activity on a song. So you're not just relying on posts on social media. We also have our own playlist ecosystem. So all record labels, especially, if you're speaking to a record label, you should definitely ask them about their own playlist that they run on Spotify and who their playlist network is. So we as a record label regularly will swap with other record labels, i.e. we'll put their music on our playlist and we'll ask them to put our music on their playlist. This is a very regular thing between different record labels. Every Friday I speak to about 20 or 30 different record labels doing what we refer to as swaps. This is a good way to kind of get your music out there, get some kind of free streams really, and get a bit of a spark happening. The final thing that we provide is we do a lot of work with Bandcamp. So this I think is a really, really important one. So we work directly with Bandcamp's team on their editorial team, trying to get them placements within Bandcamp's platform. But we also have a strong community on that platform that we're regularly kind of talking to, asking them questions, and that drives revenue. So Bandcamp is probably about 50% of our entire revenue as a record label. So like I say, these are just the things that we do as a record label. But if you're thinking of potentially signing with a label, have a think about what your priorities are and ask them questions. Ask them about, right, are you going to help me to edit some of the content? Or are you going to help me create content? Are you going to help me create music promo videos? Are you going to work with influencers? If you're someone who struggles with social media, struggles to find time to do it, ask them how can they alleviate that burden from you. Also speak to them about what they're going to pay for. So for full transparency, with our record label, the way that we split the costs is that the artist pays for the music to be created. So they deliver us a master file and everything up to them delivering us that master is paid for by the artist. Except for on certain occasions, but generally speaking, that's the way it'll run. But then anything beyond that, we pay for. So advertising, any PR, artwork, assets, anything to do with the promotion of the song, we cover. So feel free to ask a record label that. I say, right, what's the splits in terms of costs? What am I paying for? What are you paying for? And the other piece of advice that I would give is ask about a trial process. I've never understood why record labels and artists, they always want to tie an artist down straight away to something really, really long term. Why? I've never understood that. So we will typically do one single, maybe 2 or 3 singles before we look at doing anything beyond that, right? Because we want to see how this relationship develops. You wouldn't go on a first date and show up with a You wouldn't go on a first date and show up with a wedding ring, would you? So if you're talking to a label and you're considering, signing some music with them or potentially doing an album release with them, ask them quite transparently, look, could we maybe do a couple of singles first and see how this goes? So hopefully that was useful. So the things to think about, I think, if you're looking to work with a record label, ask them distribution. What's their distribution setup? What are their relationships with DSPs? Content. How are they going to help you with the content delivery, creating content, filming, editing, whatever? Playlists. What kind of playlist do they run? What kind of playlist network do they have? Advertising. Are they going to be helping you run ads? Are they going to be paying for ads? Do they have a mailing list? And ask them about Bandcamp or some kind of direct store so that you're not just relying on Spotify. Anyway, there's my tips. Everything